You know, it is often said it was a game of two halves. But, Simon, last night at St James's Park, it really was, mate, to be honest. I watched it. I don't know if you tuned in for the whole thing. I couldn't believe how dominant City were in the first half and not to be fully in the driving seat at the break. And then Newcastle, goodness only knows, what a change in a team. They came out, got it by the scruff of the neck, and went toe-to-toe like Fury Wilder, and went for them.
Yeah, well, that was very similar. Not quite as similar, but there was a similarity between the way Tottenham played Manchester United earlier on in the season, when Man United had lots of opportunities in the first half and they were the dominant side. Yet in the first 15 minutes, 20 minutes of the second half, when Spurs played Man United, they went after them. And Newcastle playing at home should be in that situation.
Yeah,
Both sides made a lot of changes. Both sides weren't playing their predominant first 11, but there was still enough talent on that pitch to merit a significant encounter. And Newcastle have landed another victory, which then, obviously we had this little wobble 3 games where a lot of that could be qualified because they were playing top opposition, one of them being Man City, the other being Liverpool. The Liverpool situation obviously was a challenge for them because everyone felt once Liverpool went down to 10 men, this was a game that was going to be Newcastle's for the taking, and Liverpool showed a very different characteristic to come back from it. Yeah. So yes, a great result for Newcastle. Yeah,
I mean, I think now it shows, incidentally, Joe Linton, what has he become?
Yeah.
I mean, my goodness, he can mix it up in the middle of the pitch. Is it time for opponents, Simon, really, to stop respecting Manchester City? Because if you stand staring at them thinking, geez, this is Pep's City, before you know who you are, you get dominated by them. That's exactly what Newcastle didn't do in the second half.
Well, I mean, look, the element of taking someone on at their own game and having a go. I mean, I'm always a front foot person, but there is also a reality about certain things. I think you should be aware of the opposition. I don't think you should be cowed by them. I don't think you should be intimidated. And once upon a time, people used to talk about going out at Anfield and being beaten before they got on the pitch of that great Liverpool side of the 70s and 80s with the Sounnesses of the world in the side. And I've always felt that was, an inveterate weakness in people. There is an element of understanding who your opposition is and respecting the principles of what they can bring to the table. There's also also a school of thought which says the best form of defence is attack. But with sides like Man City, who are so proficient in what they do, you can't just allow yourself to get in a game where you're playing to their strengths. So, look, the bottom line is that Newcastle are a decent side, and this Manchester City side that played them, in this cup competition, isn't the first 11, doesn't have their predominant players in there. So it's a great result for Newcastle. It's a shot in the arm for Eddie Howe's perceived inability to overcome Guardiola.
Well, it's his first, it's his first ever win over them. I mean, the question really is, have Newcastle shown that to beat City, you shouldn't be afraid to smash them? And certainly, that was Pep's thinking post-match.
Today we were there, we make a brilliant first half, and of course for the way we play, I think Newcastle could not accept. They increased the rhythm, the aggressivity and the kicking, and they were there, more aggressive. We struggled a little bit, but it was normal. I said half time, so it will not be the second half than the first, so we have to be there in the bad moments. We were there, and at the end we could not win with the crowd, and as I said, congratulations Newcastle for goals.
The kicking. Little Saki dig there.
A little bit, I mean, I suspect people, Guardiola thinks that opposition are just going to let Manchester City do what they want. And there's a physical side of the game. It's been diminished over the years, which I'm saddened about, because whilst I like the offensive nature of football and the fact that it's about creativity rather than destruction, I also think there's a physical side of the game where you let the opposition know that you're there, and it's the referee's job to determine whether people are stepping across the line. His team are pretty proficient at putting it about as well. Rodri's no shrinking violet.
Right.
So the fact of the matter is Newcastle fronted them up.
Yeah.
And said, right, we'll have some of you then. We're at home.
Yeah.
We fancy ourselves in this game, so we're going to make you beat us, not let you beat us.
Yeah.
And the result of it was that they got a 1-0 win.
I don't want to be disrespectful to City or their fans, but is this good for the game? That here's a trophy City aren't going to win?
Not really, because I think the best should win, whichever tournament they participate in. I'm not really that worried about the idea that monopolies are created, dynasties are cast. We've not got a league like the Bundesliga. everything goes in cycles. I don't know if Liverpool's dominance of football and Man United's dominance of football during certain periods of the 70s and 80s for Liverpool and the 90s and 2000s for Man United harmed English football.
No.
It just created a platform for other teams to have the ambition to get better, to look at something. Because apparently in society, according to certain factions of society, you need to see something before you can be it. Right? So if other sides are seeing what United or City have become, then they raise the bar. So I wouldn't, if they'd have won all four and they'd have deserved to win all four, I wouldn't be sitting there saying, oh, this is a worry for English football. I'd be saying, so what are you guys prepared to do? Because Man City aren't able now just to simply spend enormous amounts of money and do what they've done in the past. Neither are Chelsea. There's slightly more teeth in the governance because you can see it. So now you've got to raise the game. Better coaching, better players, better disciplines. Better management, better overall thinking, and Man City won't dominate forever.
No, true.
So I wouldn't have sat here.
True.
If they'd have done all four, I'd have gone, well, it's something that hasn't been done before.
Yeah.
If they do all four
right.
every year, then you're going to go, oh God, what's happening here?
Well, now Newcastle, having got rid of City, play the holders Manchester United.
Yeah.
So it's a repeat of the final, of course.
If they win this cup, they're going to win it on bloody merit, aren't they? Because the games they're having to play.
Yeah. The other day when you spoke to the people at Tottenham who very kindly gave us Ange Postecoglou, and we put it to him, look, Ange, some of your fans weren't best pleased that you went out the Carabao Cup, and this was a cup tournament that many of your own fans thought, well, if Tottenham are going to win something, this might be it. Villa fans might have been thinking something similar, Simon, because if you remember when Unai Emery popped along to his first press conference at Villa back in November, said, yeah, cups, I fancy a cup.
My dream is to win a trophy with Aston Villa. It's my personal challenge at the beginning. And my second dream, or my objective, could be to play with Aston Villa in Europe. But now we have to start thinking only the next match.
So, I mean, what's changed? If you're going to win a trophy, you got to feel pretty strong teams, I would think.
Yeah, and you also
are going to carry you to a final, and then you might win it.
But you've also got to have depth. You've also got to have the ability to be able to rotate. It's a fundamental fact of football. And if you look at what he talks about, he wants to rotate his squad. He would have put out a team at home that he would have felt was good enough to have beaten Everton. Forget the European Conference game. That's a group table. They'll come through that group and we'll see how deep they go into the tournament. So that one particular loss away to Legia Warsaw in the first leg, they're not mugs. They're not a bad side. Losing away 3-2 in a
they're not world beaters.
They're not world beaters.
Legia Warsaw.
No, sure, but they're also not mugs either. And so with that in mind, let's see how Villa, I would wager that Villa will come out of their group and then we'll see how deep they go into the tournament. In this instance, you're playing a slightly revitalised Everton side, two Premier League sides playing in a game. There's no God-given right for you to win that game. You've rotated because you know you've got to rotate. You're going to play potentially 38, factually 38 games in the league. You're going to play maybe 3 or 4 games in the FA Cup. If you're going to go deep in the League Cup, you're going to play 3 or 4 games in that. And you're going to play 8-10 games in Europe.
Yeah.
You've got somewhere in the region of 60 games. He needs to rotate. And he needs to make sure that those that he's got amongst his squad are capable of performing, and he's finding out in certain instances that possibly...
6 games in, does he really need to rotate?
Well,
and then last night he's changing his tune when he says the Premier League really is the most important competition for us.
Well,
everything's important.
Everything changes.
Try and win everything.
Everything, yes, of course, but you also have to be realistic about what you've got on your hands and how deep you can go into tournaments, and what is the profile, what is the priority. The priority for Aston Villa would be to be successful in the Premier League, and the purpose of a mind is to change it every now and again. And if he's changed his view because he thinks being in the top 4, top 6 of the Premier League for Aston Villa is a bigger priority, so what?
Yeah,
and I think that the Aston Villa fans will take a view on it.
Yeah,
they'll have a view on the fact that their team is playing decent football. Their manager has grasped the nettle and is producing a side that is worthy of significant support. So their margins away, and I don't look at it and say, well, we should hoist him by his petard. We should suddenly say, well, you said you wanted to win a trophy, so now you're not going to win one in the League Cup. You're still in the European Conference League. You're still in the FA Cup.
Yeah.
A significant achievement in the Premier League might put you in a different position in Europe next year. So what's the problem here?
I remember the last time you said hoisted by his own petard. I asked you if you knew what a petard was. And momentarily you didn't.
Well, a petard is what they did when they blew bombs up for the Guy Fawkes, wasn't it?
Oh, was it? Okay. A first win.
Explosion which blows back on the people. A petard is an explosion which blows back on the person that actually set the explosion off.
I got you. Thank you for that. A first win since August and a first goal for 28 days as Chelsea edge out Brighton. I wonder if it's a turning point, this, for Pochettino. My God, they need one. This was Poch.
Good response from the team. I seen very pleased with the performance again, and now happy because for the victory. And I think important go through to the competition and build, our trust and our momentum. Hope that we can build this momentum from the future from today.
I wonder if it is a turning point. They certainly needed it.
Well, we'll see. One of the decisions I was going to make this week was whether I was going to write an article about Chelsea and pile into them about the ridiculousness of their performance. And I thought, hang on a second, I'm writing it on Tuesday. Chelsea are playing on Wednesday. Dollars for donuts, they're beat Brighton, so I'll leave it alone.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't go in then on that perspective. And
when did you write it on a Tuesday?
I write it on a Monday or Tuesday, yeah.
And it comes out on the Thursday?
Indeed. Yeah.
I mean, so it's history by the Thursday.
Depends what you write.
Why don't you write it last night, late
Because
on?
I'm not a football commentator. I'm not commenting on individual games. I'm commenting on a situation that's developed over a period of time.
Yeah.
So I can write about it with a couple of days spare.
Oh, I see.
And top
Is
and
it
tail
because
it on
it
Wednesday.
takes you ages?
No, because I put a lot of energy into things and want to get the detail right. I'm not a journalist. I want to get the attention to detail right.
Oops, car blimey.
I want to have the substance behind what I'm saying.
Britain will sizzle. Okay,
we're all going to boil.
We're all going to boil.
But no, I think it's a good result for Chelsea.
Yeah.
I think it's
about time.
It stops it in its tracks.
Yeah.
And gives people a few moments where they can step back from it. Look, again, it was a game between sides that weren't potentially fielding their best 11.
Yeah.
But notwithstanding that, there was still enough talent on that field from Brighton to be, competitive in the game. Yeah. I'm not surprised. This is not going to go on forever. It's a great media headline. It's a great story. It's a disaster right now because people can see it. You can pile in. £1 billion spent. Team stinks. Not winning any games. Won 2 games in the last however long.
£1 billion spends. That's a reality. It's not a headline.
Well, yes, but again, I know
that's a reality.
No, I'm not saying it's a headline. I'm saying it's a great opportunity to make hay for journalists.
You said it was a great media headline.
No, it's a great media headline.
Yeah.
It's not.
It's a reality.
I didn't say it was an accurate media headline.
Right.
There's plenty of those. I don't need to point this one out because one's factual. The point of the matter is that there's £1 billion being spent. We all seem to be awfully worried for Todd Bowley and his private equity players. They don't seem to be worried. But the point is that they've got a result in the League Cup. Whether this is a turning point for Chelsea, I don't think so. I think it takes a longer time to build what they're missing into the side. But you've seen the boy up top score a goal and a goal disallowed, so he'll feel a bit better for it.
Sure.
But still, I think still a long way to go for Chelsea.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.